Well, first of all, if you people notice that I've changed my glasses, I brought like just 10 of my glasses. I guess I'm pretty well known for collecting glasses, which I have since I started wearing glasses and 20 years old. A big collection of glasses. It's like my hobby. It has always been my hobby. It's a better hobby than I used to have when I was a kid, so I'll tell you right now. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, then moved to Queens when I was 12 years old, and graduated from Forest Hills High School and then Queens College in political science at 20 years old. Got a partial scholarship to go to CU to go for a PhD in constitutional law. I had never been to Colorado. In fact, I didn't even know the Rocky Mountains were here. You know, because when you grow up in New York, you know, New Jersey is the West Coast. And we drove over the Boulder Turnpike, and it was cloudy. And when we got over the last hill, the sun had broken through, and I saw those mountains, and I said, what are they doing here? And I was like blown away, and that's how I ended up in Boulder, Colorado, and stayed the rest of my life, basically, Boulder and Denver. And Boulder, at that point, was starting to explode as a music mecca. Bands were starting to move there. Chris Hillman from the Byrds had moved there, and Stephen Stills had moved there, and Joe Walsh started Barnstorm, and of course wrote the hit Rocky Mountain Way because he was living on top of Boulder. And Dan Fogelberg, the late and great, a really dear friend and a great, wonderful human being, moved there, and the Dirt Band moved to Colorado. And I got a really lucky break to manage the Sink, which is still around, which is the #1 3-2 bar in the state of Colorado. Managed it from 1968 to 1970, and I convinced Herbie Tavar that we ought to go buy a bankrupt Tulagi's nightclub up the street from the Sink. And we opened in 1970 with Zephyr, a local band, with Tommy Bolin, the lead guitar player. And in a period of 3 years, we had everybody there from Bonnie Raitt's first tour, ZZ Top's first tour, the Doobie Brothers' first tour, Linda Ronstadt's first tour, and it became a hugely successful club. And I later went on to start a club in Denver and to go into business with Barry Fay, and started a club called Ebbets Field, which I named after the baseball park that I used to go to skip school when I was 10 years old and walk 8 blocks to Ebbets Field. We always prided ourselves, Barry Fay and myself. I was the #2 guy at Fayline for years. Working with Barry and priding ourselves in finding new bands, and we found a band that was doing their first American tour called U2, a bunch of kids at that point. This was 1980, 81, and we put them at the Rainbow Music Hall on their first tour for $2, and they killed me. I thought they were one of the greatest bands I've ever seen. They were just their first tour, and they played for us at the Rainbow Music Hall. They were off for a day after the show. And I drove them in the back of my Jeep, which didn't have a top to it, and the whole band, just the band and myself, up to Red Rocks and said, you guys are so great, someday you're going to play here. And of course, 2 or 3 years later, we put them at Red Rocks and did that under the blood red sky. And it was one of the, of course, great events of all time, and certainly helped break the band. And it was, we produced the show, and actually I was involved, Barry was, and myself and a few other people helping them put up some money to make the video because they couldn't afford to do it themselves. It was snowing, and it was almost canceled. It was so cold. That actually, the cold weather had a lot to do with the beauty of the actual video, because there was, you know, hot air coming, or cold air coming out of Bono's mouth when he was singing and talking, and it was just an amazing night. Certainly one of the proudest nights in my career of being involved in that show and being involved with that band, which became, you know, measurably, you know, certainly them and the Stones are by far the 2 biggest bands in the world today. When we opened up AEG, I felt we should probably give it a whack at having a big festival, and that's just what we did with the Mile High Music Festival, and we've had 3 wonderful years. You know, with people like Dave Matthews and Tom Petty and Steve Miller and Widespread Panic, and God, we've had probably 120 bands in 3 years, 5 stages, and you know, I thought that was one of the things that Denver really needed. It has the greatest amphitheater in the world with Red Rocks, and certainly some great clubs. We've really turned around the Ogden and Bluebird, and now with First Bank Center being one of the great mini arenas in the world, which we're very proud of. You know, we're a great community. I've been, you know, promoting shows in a whole bunch of cities, building buildings, clubs for going on 40 years, and honestly, I've never had a better relationship and having more fun with both the people of Broomfield and the people in the government side of Broomfield. George DeCiro and Charles and Mayor Quinn and Chamber people have been so easy to work with. It's been really special in terms of the first less than a year since we took over the building and remodeled it and opened it. It's just been a wonderful thing, and the people of Broomfield are wonderful, and they're very lucky to have some great people in their government that are, you know, care so much about things getting done properly and right, and want to help make things bigger and better for Broomfield.